For decades, the world was shaped by the West, but 21st century is witnessing something history. The rise of the global south, and the center of this transformation stands India. The global south refers to developing and emerging economies, most primarily located across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and a parts of Middle East. These nations share three major realities: a history of colonial exploitation, a struggle for economic development, and today, a growing demand for fair representation in global governance. But here is the twist: the global south is no longer just a symbol of poverty or underdevelopment. Today, it represents demographic power, economic growth, and political influence. Together, these countries represent around 80 to 85% of the world's population, nearly 40% of global GDP, the fastest growing economies in the world. In simple terms, the global south is not the periphery of the world anymore. It is the demographic and economic center of the future. The idea of global south evolved from earlier political movements. During the Cold War, many developing countries refused to join either the US or Soviet blocs. This led to the formation of Non-Aligned Movement in 1961. Later, developing nations formed a group of 77 to demand fair economic rules in global trade and finance. However, for decades, their voice remained limited because global institutions were dominated by developed countries. The global south had numbers but not the power. But 21st century changed the equation. Emerging economies began to rise rapidly. Countries like India, Brazil, South Africa, and Indonesia started playing major roles in global economies. New platforms also emerged. The BRICS became a symbol of global South cooperation. Similarly, forums like the G20 began giving developing countries greater representation. The message was clear: the global South was no longer asking for a seat at the table, it was building its own table. One of the most significant developments has been the leadership role of India. During the 2023 G20 Summit, India strongly emphasized the concern of developing nations. One of the biggest achievements was the inclusion of African Union as a permanent member of G20. India also hosted the Voice of Global South Summit, bringing together more than 120 developing countries. Yeah, more than 120 developing countries to discuss climate finance, food security, technology access, and fair global governance. India's message was absolutely clear: the future of global growth lies in the global south. Despite its rising influence, the global south still faces major challenges like debt crisis. Many developing countries are struggling with rising debt and limited access to affordable financing. Second is climate injustice. Ironically, countries that contributed the least to climate change suffer the most from its impact. Third is technology divide. Access to advanced technologies like AI, semiconductors, and digital infrastructures remains unequal. This is why Global South nations are demanding reforms in institutions like the World Trade Organization and the United Nations. The Global South will define the future of the world for three key reasons. First is its demographics. Most of the world's young population lives in the developing countries. Second is economic growth. By 2050, many global south economies will dominate global growth. Third is political power. Collectively, these countries can reshape global governance structures. In short, the global south is moving from the margins of global politics to the center of global power. For decades, the global south searched for a strong voice enough to represent its aspirations. But today, that voice is becoming absolutely clearer. From advocating climate justice to reforming global institutions to offering scalable development models, India is emerging as the bridge between the developed and the developing world. In many ways, the story of the 21st century will not just be about the rise of the global south, it will also be the rise of India as its leading voice. Thank you.